Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release, and today we are talking about Shattered Glass from 2003. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And joining us once again is Jack Draper from We Hate Movies. Is that your podcast? Is that what it's called?
Actually, my podcast, it's called
Great podcast. Love that podcast.
What we do... yeah.
Oh, no.
I don't know what there's so know about it.
yeah,
I genuinely love that podcast.
Yeah. You listen to every episode from second one to the last.
I love working an entire shift of 11 hours and I'm halfway through a podcast. It's like listening to one Tool song. Yeah.
An entire day's work can last you
one
episode.
Actually, through the 2010s, we should say. And also, we were just recently on for Bachelorette, a
yes.
perfect movie that everybody loves. Okay.
Of course.
No one had anything bad to say about that.
Brian's like, it's all right. I slightly remembered it.
I love that my friend Greg, who introduced me to that movie, I went to his wedding last year and he watched it the night before he got married. Meant a ton.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. For better and for worse, a period.
It's true. I mean, every movie's a period piece. Just like that Mitch Hedberg joke. Here's a picture when I was younger. Every picture is a picture when you were younger.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a national treasure.
He's my favorite person ever. I went down a rabbit hole the other day of just him on Letterman and on Conan. Just the funniest shit ever. Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb is the artificial version of Dr. Pepper, but it's a bullshit replica because this motherfucker didn't even get his degree.
Yesterday I had a club sandwich. Well, where do I need to join?
Oh no, it was one he was on Conan. I was dying. I don't even think I'd heard this one. It was like there was a little girl on TV and she was born with no arms. And man, it just bummed me out. But they were saying that this girl doesn't know the meaning of the word can't. So now I started to get mad because not only does she have no arms, she doesn't understand basic contractions.
I will say there was a recent Conan podcast episode with Jane Fonda, and you can actually find it on YouTube if you don't want to listen to the whole clip, but there's a bit where he talks about how he saw Barbarella at the Coolidge Corner Theater.
I saw Barbarella here.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we're showing Barbarella as a midnight.
Hell yeah.
Coincidence? I think not.
Hell yeah. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, we're talking about... I was about to say something that would get me in trouble. We're talking about Shattered Glass from 2003. I was not going to make it.
Are you going to say, like, sharded glass or something?
No.
Sorry, this is actually... I rented this from Blockbuster, and I got splintered plastic. Is that an issue?
Oh, God.
Or, I'm sorry. Shoot, I watched them.
I'm trying to think of a porn parody
Just
title.
imagining Amanda Bynes being like, "Are you mad at me?"
Oh no, this glass. I bought it, but it's shattered.
Oh no, I made it all up. What could I do?
I wrote you the story. You didn't write this story. Oh no, I'm sorry.
I ruined your glass bong.
Send in the dancing lobsters.
That's how we're going to end every pod now.
Oh, God.
All right, we've said all we've had to say about House of the Dead. Bring in the dancing lobsters.
That's great.
We've also made all of our profits off of the allowance copier.
Just
That's why we don't need sponsors.
Just thinking about the girls' room reviewing Ringmaster. Okay.
I like eggs.
Shattered Glass from 2003. Premiered at TIFF in August 2003. Opened limited on 8 theaters in October 22nd, 2003. And maxed out at 215 theaters. Budget of $6 million. Opening weekend it did $77,000. Domestic gross of $2.2 million. And overall gross of $3.4 million. Top 5 films that weekend. One of these will seem familiar because we were just talking about it. Scary Movie 3 at number 1. And This was number 1 for the second week in a row. And then Brother Bear, the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, hell yeah. Radio, and Runaway Jury.
I've seen Runaway Jury. That was an early pandemic watch. I watched it with my family. It's okay.
Nice.
I was about to be like, how was it? Mildly enjoyable? You're like, yeah.
Gentleman
watched-
sex. Yeah.
I watched Radio in my middle school English class for no reason at all other than my teacher
Teacher
who,
was
by the
hungover,
way,
yeah.
was one of the best teachers I had in middle school. She was a wonderful teacher, but she just showed it to us at the end of the year for no reason at all.
This movie's
It
in
was just
English,
like, you kids don't want to
and
do work. What?
I watched it in my 9th grade math class, which was always my first class of the day, and almost like half of the people would be asleep, and my teacher would just pretend like she didn't notice. But there was just so many times she was like, we're going to watch a movie. Why? I don't know. And for some reason, I remember we tried to play a movie and it didn't work. And I was just like, I have a movie in my locker we can watch. And it was a movie starring Tom Green called Bob the Butler.
What?
I don't know why.
Yeah, with him and Brooke Shields. I watched part of it on TV
Yep.
once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if we're going back to Scary Movie 3, I know we talked about it last episode, but there is one joke that I still think about and crack up to myself, and it actually is still relevant, where Regina Hall looks at the ring that comes on her TV, and she goes, Cindy, the news is on. Another little white girl fell down a well. And then she says something along the lines of, like, yeah, black people get shot by cops every year, and they're never getting footage of us. Like that type of thing where I'm like, oh, like, wow.
Cindy, the TV's leaking.
yeah. I just think about it. Because it really does turn into the ring into, yeah, it really is just about another little white girl that fell down a well and then just became like a viral sensation. It's just so bad.
Okay, number 1 song in the U.S. this week was Baby Boy by Beyonce featuring Sean Paul. And number 1 song in Canada this week, I have never heard of it. It is Something More by Ryan Malcolm, who's a Canadian singer, but he won Canadian Idol's first season.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah.
No
Don't
Justin,
know.
no Kelly, but yeah. Plot description from Google. Young hotshot journalist Stephen Glass, played by Hayden Christensen, puts on a good show for his admiring editor, Michael Kelly, Hank Azaria, aka Mo, but admits deep insecurities to his fellow writer, Caitlin Avery, played by Chloe 70. When Glass begins to turn in outrageous stories, his popularity skyrockets, but rival journalist Chuck Lane, played by Peter Sarsgaard, becomes suspicious at their factual accuracy and eventually discovers that Glass has been fabricating many of his sources. Young hotshot journalist. This is very of the moment, but I edited and put up the lovely and amazing episode, and the trailer for that makes it seem like it is. It's so fucking funny. The overview is just like, meet so and so, and she has 2 different sisters, and I was like, what? No, come on.
Oh, the trailer for Shattered Glass is also pretty great, where it's like, the typing at the keyboard, it's like, what we knew. What we thought we knew.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
You mentioning that it's Mo, that Hank Azaria voices Mo too, made me think about how funny that would be if, like, a bunch of rats just infested the office, and you just hear Hank Azaria go, all right, everybody tuck your pants into your socks, and then the next day he's fired.
Remember when Hank Azaria showed up in the Godzilla remake? That was weird.
The 1998 one?
Yeah. He gets,
I
like,
do not
stepped
remember
on
that.
while he has a video camera, and then Godzilla lifts up and he was, like, in between the creases of one of his toes, and he's, like, freaking out. It's like the comedy sting at the end of the trailer, which, it's hilarious. Godzilla 1998, a movie that I will somehow defend.
Wait, really? That was one of the few movies I saw as a kid where I was like, this kind of sucks.
Oh, it sucks, but it is so just such a moment. I remember, like, the fucking, like, year run up to it where it was just like hype. Diddy song drops, hype. Taco Bell advertisements, hype.
Wait, what were the Taco Bell deals for Godzilla in 1998?
It was commercials, and there was a T-shirt that I had. It was the Chihuahua had a trap for Godzilla, but it was just a box with a string that said free tacos, and he was saying, here, lizard, and then Godzilla shows up and he's like, I think I need a bigger box. I had a shirt that said that, okay?
Well, that's funny because you're wearing it right now.
I wish. I'm going to look that up on eBay, and it's going to be like $400. gonna go into debt for a Taco Bell shirt. Where
They just opened the. I'm not even kidding. They just opened the Taco Bell on the same street as the Coolidge, and it's the
Damn right they
only-
did.
And us being a movie theater, we're open until anywhere from midnight to 1:30 in the morning, even sometimes 3 in the morning if you count weekends. And they are the only other place of business that's open.
Oh wow!
So occasionally, if we're like done with our shit early, we'll just be like, "Can we run to Taco Bell?" And we're like, "God, this is destroying us. like this is not helping us at all."
Trying to find Taco Bell Godzilla shirt. Oh, sorry, we're doing something. Anyways, based on the article by H.G. Bissinger, adapted and directed by Billy Ray, which is fake director name. His first.
Cyrus?
Yes. Don't turn in my piece, my fraudulent piece. Yeah. His first directed film prior to this, co-wrote Volcano in 1997. The Coast is Toast. It's toast.
The Coast is Toast.
Heart's War in 2002. After this, co-wrote Suspect Zero. And directed and wrote Breach in 2007, and wrote the screenplay for Captain Phillips and co-wrote The Hunger Games.
Yeah. He's an interesting, kind of an interesting guy, because Suspect Zero, that was it was originally a Zach Penn script, and then he was brought in for rewrites, I think. You look at Billy Ray's resume, it's a lot of it seems like the movies he writes and directs, he's only directed 3 movies, but they're those seem the passion projects he's into, sort of looking at it's sort of questioning institutions, I guess, and everything it's journalism and FBI and terrorist investigators or whatever, but that's secret in their eyes that there's the terrorist investigators. But then
or at least looking
I
at
couldn't believe that.
because it's I find interesting that he's looking through institutions into the perspective of the very specific individuals. It's not so many people that are professionals at their jobs doing a job well, but they're rather going about these very specific situations that he's then investigating, and also the institutions.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd say, but what's interesting about a lot of the other movies that he writes is it's a lot of just junky action movies, and I like some of these movies. I kind of like Overlord, the Nazi mutant movie that was from a few years ago. That one's okay, but it's a lot of movies where it's I guess you were just writing this to pay the bills, and you're also working with a few other writers on this thing. But Richard Jewell is kind of the one that, because he co-wrote that with with some other writer, and that's that's another one where it's about we're looking at the FBI breach, and also and you said, looking at it through an individual's place, sort of facing against it, which is interesting.
When I was a sophomore in high school, I don't remember how, but a bunch of friends and I ended up going to play laser tag somewhere, and then we all went to the mall, and the mall that we grew up killing time at is also attached to a Regal, and we had a big fight over should we see Ghost Rider 1 with Nicolas Cage or Breach, and I was very much on the Breach has better reviews type of thing, and then I won, and we walked out of the theater and everyone was mad at me because we were 15 and everyone was like, who cares? And I was just yeah, it was kind of boring.
That's actually a pretty good movie, but it is pretty dry if you're a 15-year-old.
It's really dull. It's not. It's better than Ghost Rider. I eventually saw Ghost Rider, and
Ghost Rider, another movie I watched in 9th grade math class. Continue. I'm not kidding.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and you're just
Sorry, Nicolas Cage is about to say Italian. That's all I remember from that movie. All your friends during Breach were just when are they gonna get to the breach?
One other thing. This is something I found out. I don't think I've actually seen this ad because they don't show it here in Canada. But Billy Ray wrote that fucking Nicole Kidman AMC ad that I keep hearing about on social media.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyways.
Billy Ray, is that in his most known for on IMDb?
No, it was on his Wikipedia thing, because I think that's his most recent credit. Because I think the only other big project he done was he did the Comey Rule thing about Joseph Comey and Donald Trump, which
that
oh hell yeah, we all watched that.
I watched the trailer and it's Brendan Gleeson playing Trump. It's insane.
Written and directed by Billy Ray. Yeah.
I was if that's a
Somebody had to
movie,
do
I'd
it.
watch it, but I was I have to spend how many hours watching that? Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm sorry.
Brought up on the 28 Days Later episode of Blank Check.
Oh really? Right. Yes. Because they talk about why would anyone want to watch that after living through 4 years of Trump? Yeah.
Oh, for whatever reason, I just imagine like when Brendan Gleeson in 28 Days Later gets a drop of blood in his eye, he just turns into Trump and then just
Get away from me!
His skin is turning orange. Like, wait, what's going on?
Gosh.
Is that the last? Is 28 Days Later the last movie where it's just like all you need to know about it is the tag, or not the tagline, but the pull quote on the poster just says "scary as hell."
I mean, that poster also it was red with orange eyes, and the trailer, I saw the trailer a bunch when I was a teenager, even seeing stuff like X-Men 2 and all that stuff, and I was like, you know, me being the fraidy cat, like, preteen, was like, I will never see that. And then, of course, like, 2-3 years later, I was like, I need to see this.
I love that movie. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Yeah.
Starring Hayden Christensen as Stephen Glass. Prior to this, Brian, you just watched this. He played a paperboy in The Mouth of Madness, 1994.
Oh, yeah, could not. I was in utter disbelief when you told that to us. Yeah. I could not believe that, and I've seen In the Mouth of Madness a few times, and I had no idea. Yeah. Just never made that connection. It's great.
Oh, yeah. He's also in a movie called Strike from 1998, which I quite like. It was also called The Hairy Bird. It was also called All I Want to Do. Kristen Dunst, Rachel Lee Cook, and there's
Gabby Hoffman and Merritt Weaver.
Gabby Hoffman. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Directed by, oh God, who was it?
Sarah Carnachan, I think is her name.
Yes.
This movie was like filmed in Toronto, so I know about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like, I think I watched that when I was going through all of Nora Ephron's movies, and it shows that she was like a co-writer or something like that, but then when I watched it, she was like executive producer, and I was like, God damn it, you got me. Yeah. Where am I? And Life as a House in 2001, and Attack of the Clones in 2002. After this, Revenge of the Sith in 2005, Awake in 2007, Jumper in 2008, and Takers in 2010. Those are basement DVDs.
Anyone want cover takers? Anyone? No.
Any takers?
No. No takers.
Just about to see that. You son of a bitch.
I mean, I think Kevin, you've seen it, but has anyone else seen Awake? That movie is
No.
insane.
It's not so great.
The trailer scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
I have a question. What is Revenge of the Sith? I've never heard of that one.
Stop. We're going to talk about Star Wars for the next 30 minutes.
No, we're not.
Okay, we're gonna get back to the bottom of this.
Anakin grows a mullet.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
What is Star Wars?
Yeah, it'd be funny if you didn't know what that was, but then you were like, "Oh yeah, Jumper, of course, my favorite movie from when I was a kid."
I have not seen Jumper. I rented and played the Jumper video game for 360.
So did I. Saw Jumper in theaters,
yeah.
owned the DVD, and played the video game, which I rented from video stores.
I'm assuming, what is the Jumper video game? I'm assuming
I forget.
It's just what it sounds like. It's just like you're Frogger, but with Hayden Christensen, and you just jump into traffic or
No,
something?
you don't play as Hayden Christensen. You play as Jamie Bell's character. Griffin, I believe is his name. You're like...
Come on, Charlie. You should know this.
Okay, I love Jamie Bell, so that's more of a selling point. Am I going to have to get this game?
I got it strictly because I knew it had easy achievements, and that's why I rented it.
Hell yeah.
It's actually an adaptation of the Chum Scrubber. That's what that video game is.
Peter Sarsgaard as Chuck Lane. Prior to this, Boys Don't Cry in 1999. K-19, The Widowmaker in 2002. Cool. After this, the worst movie of all time, Garden State in 2004. Flight Plan in 2005, which Billy Ray co-wrote. Orphan in 2009, and The Lie in 2018.
Yeah, I was gonna say The Lie. That might be the worst.
Yes.
Movie. Yeah, that's one of the worst movies. Yeah.
Did you mention Center of the World? Or
Oh, well, yeah, true. He's in Center of the World prior to this. You should listen to our episode. The Orphan kicks ass. The Lie kicks ass in a different way.
Look, Isabel Furman thirsts after Peter Sarsgaard. I can relate. I don't see what the problem is here.
I would also disguise myself as a child.
Yeah. I see no issue here.
You're under arrest. Wait, I'm not actually a child. You're under arrest for, I don't know, we'll find something.
can I just arrest you?
Yeah. We just want to question you about something. What? Just everything, okay? Am I being arrested? No, we just have questions, okay? Also starring everybody who has ever acted: Chloe Sevigny, Steve Zahn, Rosario Dawson, Melanie Linsky, and Hank Sara, aka Mo.
Fantastic ensemble.
Oh, so
Yes.
good. Not a bad performance.
Not only is it a great cast, but everyone is so well cast.
Yes.
Steve Zahn is so good.
Oh, we're gonna talk Zahn for sure.
I only remembered Peter Sarsgaard and Hayden Christensen. I completely forgot just how stacked this cast was.
It's so stacked. Oh my goodness.
Like even down to how like the owner of the New Republic, Marty Peretz, is played by Ted Kotcheff, who directed First Blood and Wake and Fright. Like that's fucking
Sure.
nuts
Yeah.
that they got.
And we get a
insane.
Bernie's.
Yeah, right. Yes,
hell
of course.
Yeah.
Let me plow through this trivia because I know we have so much to talk about the actual movie. Many members of the test audience didn't believe the story was true. They thought no real-life magazine would have so many journalists in their early to mid-20s, even though the New Republic did. A place card added to the opening of the film stated that the median age of the journalists working for them was 26. It's so funny watching that movie and be like, oh, that's not real. What, you mean the fabrications? No, they're too young. Melanie Linsky had no costume changes. She wore the same outfit throughout the entire movie. Thought that was funny.
Queen.
I didn't even consider that being a contributing factor. That's so wow. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Stephen Glass was offered a role. He declined. The students in the class Stephen Glass speaks to were played by French Canadians from Montreal. None of the students speak because most of the extras didn't speak English. That works so well for that scene, though, because they look like they're just like deer in headlights. They're just like, look at this
they
man
look very-
talking. Sure, yeah.
They do not look
Skywalker.
engaged, but they look confused.
Except for the one girl they keep cutting to, it's like Stephen Glass's
I
defense
know,
here is
and it's
fine.
like-
yeah, this girl likes what I have to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
By the way the camera is framing it, I thought that she had like a crush on Steven. Like it was
I know. I thought she was gonna
interesting.
like close her eyes, and there was gonna be like "call me" on it or something.
Me,
you know?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Raiders of the Lost Earth thing where it says "love you" on a
yeah,
separate
that's right.
eyelid.
It says she
Yeah,
writes
yeah.
spring breakdown in her notes.
I know.
Spring Breakdown. This was initially greenlit to be an HBO movie, but by the time Billy Ray finished the script, there were new HBO executives and they didn't care for it much anymore, so they sat it on a shelf for 2 years. Eventually, Ray decided to take it somewhere else, Lionsgate, and directed it himself. He said this would be a good launching point for him as far as directing goes, because he was only a writer at that point, because he knew that there was nothing there that was so craft dependent that my lack of experience was going to hang me. Typically this is bottom of the list as IMDb trivia, but I found it entertaining. In the original 1998 Vanity Fair article, Buzz Bissinger wrote that Stephen Glass established himself as the Darth Vader of details. Huh? Yeah. Okay. That's usually some IMDb ass trivia where it's just like somebody says, "Get out of town." In 1998, they were also in a movie called... No. Maggie Gyllenhaal was originally cast in the role that went to Melanie Linsky, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts.
Oh, well, that's funny because her and Peter.
Oh
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to Chuck Lane, the real Chuck Lane, the scene where Lane confronts Glass in front of the New Republic magazine covers at the end was an almost exact retelling of the actual events, which sounds just depressing.
Well, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's a great scene, but yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
You're just like, quit coming back, dude.
You're fired. You've lost your job. It's like, it's put it so blatantly.
I don't know what you mean by that, Chuck. I don't know.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2004, the real Glass moved to California after being told he couldn't practice law in New York. He passed the bar in California, but they rejected his license because, he petitioned, they upheld the decision, and now he works in like law firm in California.
Jeez, imagine having Stephen Glass as your lawyer. Just never trust him.
These are the facts of the case. And then somebody's like, are they? And they're just like, we lost. Great. Okay. Glass received a reported $190,000 advance for his 2003 novel, The Fabulous.
The Fabulous.
Yeah, isn't it a fabulous?
Fablemans?
Yeah, that's right. A novel that just tells the story of what happened to him, and I'm sure makes him out to be the victim.
No, but like I was watching a 60 Minutes interview with Stephen Glass, and it was
yeah.
like, wait, but you just You wrote yourself.
They say it's a novel,
about, like,
right? At the end of the movie,
Yeah.
they say it's a
Yeah.
novel, so it's like a
Yeah.
fictional story about a guy who makes up fictional
Yeah.
stories. It's like,
Yeah.
which, like, we talked about this in our group chat. Like, it's like, one, this guy could have just, like, written accurate journalism. Pretty easy to do that. But if he really wanted to make up stories, he could have also just been a fiction writer. That is an entire genre that exists.
Yeah.
Both of these lanes were available, and you decided to go in the middle.
He could have even been the fucking what's that douchebag who wrote "I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell." That's what I kept thinking.
Tucker Max?
Like, Tucker Max. Like, he seems like one of those people to me. Oh gosh. Which I know that's supposed to be nonfiction, but that all seems fucking accentuated.
I know, and then he
Maybe
became
a bad comparison.
then he became like a self-help guy, and I listened to his first book, and I'm sorry. However, the book only sold 4,000 copies as of 2014, 11 years later, and only sold 1,000 copies in the first 9 days. Bwomp.
Monty Python foot just.
Glass had to pay $200,000 to the New Republic and other publications for his fabrications, and I think I also read something, I didn't write it down, but like something as recent as like early 2010s, he like sent a check to Vanity Fair for like 10 grand, and he was like, my bad, and it was just like, get over it, dude.
There are 16,800 magazines in this country, but only one calls itself the In-Flight Magazine of Air Force One. And that's the thrill of working at the New Republic. This kid, he hacked his way into a company called Juke Micronics and posted the salary of every Juked employee on Juke's website, saying the big bad bionic boy has been here, baby.
Why didn't you get this?
I don't know. Do you have phone numbers for all your sources on the hack heaven piece? Could somebody let's do some kind of follow-up story?
I called all the hackers I know, asking if any had heard of a hacker by the name of Big Bad Bionic Boy. Nothing.
He's made some pretty serious charges.
This looks very suspicious to me.
I'm increasingly beginning to believe that I've been duped.
The New Republic's snobbiest rag in the business and gets completely snowed.
Have you thought about the impact this might have?
If you fire him, people will leave.
I go, Chuck, why didn't you back me up? He goes, I'm sorry, Steve. I gotta protect the magazine.
There are political considerations. The Young Conservatives piece. Was that true?
This wasn't an isolated incident. He handed us fiction after fiction, and we printed them all as fact.
Hayden Christensen.
You're my editor. You're supposed to support me.
Peter Sarsgaard.
This thing blows, there isn't going to be a magazine anymore.
I didn't do anything wrong. You saw my notes. Everything was in there.
They're going to have all this, too.
I didn't do anything wrong. I really wish you'd stop saying that.
Shattered Glass.
Okay, that's all the trivia. There's a lot of trivia. Initial thoughts. Had everybody previously seen this?
I had.
Okay.
I hadn't.
Okay, so me and Jack had not previously seen this. Jack, initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I'd always. I mean, I'm sure we all have these, like, ones that have been in your watch list for as long as you can remember. I think that this always had the ding of, like, that's the wrong word. It always had the tag of Hayden Christensen's a good actor. And we came to realize this when it was too late to like change the popular consensus that he can be good in mismanaged films.
Which is also just real quick in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, so I don't understand.
Of course,
that.
of
Yeah,
course.
like,
No, that
yeah.
chronology is good to establish. He's terrific in this, as is everybody. I don't have much of a, Star Wars take, but I think he's fine in those. They're different movies. You can give different performances in different movies. He doesn't have to be bad in one genre picture and then good in a drama. I don't know.
Is this where we talk about kind of like his perception in those movies versus this is kind of like Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson and Twilight too.
Yes.
That's a
but
great,
That's a
yeah.
great
but the
comparison.
thing is, he really only had this.
Oh yeah, that's another.
Nobody's
yeah,
watching
never
Takers and been
had an
like,
auteur
y'all
run.
motherfuckers don't get it. He's great in Takers.
Well, it's the Anakin curse because Jake Lloyd was the same way, and he was even younger. And on top of that, you look at everybody else in Star Wars. It's like, well, Samuel L. Jackson was in Star Wars, and it's like, yeah, he has one mode, and he's great in that mode, but he has to be like, we have to serve the Republic. And then even when it comes to you're under arrest, Chancellor, it's like he's still in that one mode. Everything emotionally involved with the Star Wars arc of those prequels relies on him. So
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
falls
You have to
if
certainly
the writing is bad. Yeah.
You have to know how to pivot that mode, and with Hayden Christensen and Shattered Glass, I guess to finish my thought, actually, I'd always known this as a great Hayden Christensen performance, without knowing too much of what it was about. And this was great that I finally had to see this, because I think it's fantastic. There's a level of, like, just thinking about Hayden Christensen in this, there's a level of naivete mixed with confidence that then is, like, at a peak at the very beginning. But then, of course, that's so haunting. By the end scene with Steven and Chuck at the very end, you're dwindled down to this pathetic, sad, lonely, and for me, sympathetic version of who he started out with. It's like the opposite of an arc a little bit, right? And I don't know. I mean, I guess this whole scammers theme, it's inevitable that you're going to be taking away some tragedy with these figures that were flexing their ethics for the sake of what they perceive as doing well for others, but most importantly themselves. I guess the movie that I thought of with this one is one of my all-time favorites, Catch Me If You Can.
Oh yeah.
And what you're willing to do to not only get ahead, but make yourself a better person for yourself and others. Because I think that's lost with what, like, I guess I was talking to my parents about what they thought about Stephen Glass, and they were very harsh on his actions. And I guess that you can be harsh on him, but there is something, I think, that separates him from another fraud that I guess, in the 60 Minutes that I referenced earlier that I saw, that was an interview years away from the film and the events, he was like, I still don't know why I did what I did. And there is something kind of to that, I think, that he was still questioning. Like, obviously you can read it surface level that it's like, you did it to just fabricate a story and make yourself look better and have everyone be impressed by you.
There's never a scene at the end where he's crying and it's just like, I just wanted to fit in or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God,
yeah,
that would ruin the movie if he did something like that.
It would ruin, I think it would ruin the movie, and it would ruin my perception of how sort of, like, deeply hurt of a person he is, that he just wants to, like, deliver good journalism and what he will do to go about that. But
yeah, it's interesting. I'm not going to get into my initial thoughts yet, but I just wanted to admit it's interesting. You don't really get the scene. You don't really get any scenes of him by himself at his home. If you do, you get, like, the scenes, like, where it's him imagining what he wants to happen, or you see him, like, interacting with other coworkers. I think, like, the closest you get is like the one scene when it, like, cuts between Chuck Lane lying down with his wife and Stephen Glass just, like, lying on his couch by himself or whatever. Like, and, like, that's, like, the closest you get to really knowing who he is. And, like, he is, like, I mean, that's the thing, is, like, he is super amiable with everyone, but he's not really. But it's also a lie, because he's not really telling them true things about himself, where he's, like, projecting this image and everything. And that's sort of what's kind of hard to. I don't know. Yeah, the movie. This is a case of a guy you don't really know much about, but the void sort of him is, like, what makes the movie engaging.
He is sort of a blank slate in a way.
Yes,
but not annoyingly
but
so.
not,
where you're just like, what? It's set up to a point where the movie is set up to not be like, well, why does he do this or anything like that, where that could be annoying in any other type of movie, where it's just like, there's no basis on why these characters are doing what they do. They're just doing it and expecting us to go along for the ride. It's like, you get it and you don't need to be over explained by it, which is really great.
I will say, really. Oh, sorry,
another
Jack.
no, real fast.
Yeah,
another protagonist that he reminds me of, Jeff Wingard in The Insider, because he, of course, we get a lot of interior life with that character, but he reminds me of someone who's, like, that comes across as deeply haunted and lonely in their thoughts and what they think is being done is the right thing to do, even though they have a close a group around them that's constantly telling them like, no, this is not the right thing. But what is the right thing to do in their circumstances is murky. But
an example I thought of, which upon I had seen this before, but rewatch, I won't get into my initial thoughts. I'm just trying to back up that at the beginning of the movie, someone knocks on his office door where he's having a conversation with Melanie Linsky, and he compliments her lipstick, and he's like, oh, what shade is that? I can't think of what shade it is at this point. And then he goes, God, I need to stop seeming like I'm gay. And Melanie Linsky's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I went out to dinner with this guy for the story, and we went out and got this nice Italian food, and then he stuck his tongue down my throat, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And Melanie Linsky's like, I don't understand. And then the scene kind of stops. And based on what we know as bullshit, it's probably bullshit that he probably made up a story about like, shit, I talked about lipstick with this woman. I don't know anything about lipstick. I have to make it seem like this is like something like, it's like he's covering up his own bullshit. And Melanie Linsky's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like that type of thing, which is like, oh, like it's all a facade. And then when you make up a facade in person when you're talking to someone and it's not permanent in ink, that's the type of thing that
definitely
like he starts to like sidestep, and then it's just like, wait, what are you talking about? Oh, you know that.
Okay.
I really believe that Stephen Glass doesn't know who the real version of himself is anymore, because he's now in too deep for like making up these narratives about himself and like events that didn't happen. The level of detail that he went into like crafting these things to not be caught is crazy.
Yeah, he's that scene in Zoolander where he looks into the puddle and says, "Where am I?" And his reflection goes, "I don't know."
Mufasa appears in the clouds. Yeah.
Okay, so my initial thoughts, I'd never seen this prior. I was expecting this to be fine to good, but I thought it was pretty damn great. And what was so funny, because when it started out, I was like, oh, Hayden Christensen, you're really trying, aren't you? But then he's just pretty fucking phenomenal by the end of it. He just has like this, like I was saying before, it's just like he just nails this little wounded puppy dog guy so well. He's just so pathetic, just one of the most pathetic characters I've ever seen. And it's just by the second half when it starts unraveling and all that, it's just rough to watch a guy that can't help but dig himself a deeper hole. Like he just keeps adding shit onto shit onto shit and just can't even keep his bullshit straight.
On that point, I love his physical intensities. When him and Chuck literally go to where the meetings were held.
Yeah.
It's in that moment when you start to
fucking lobby.
When you're right. The
200 people.
Well, they were coming in and out, you know.
Yeah. No, it literally plays like kind of a comedy. It's outrageous
because it's like he just has to keep yes-anding and everything, saying we went for dinner. It's like all those people for lunch. It's like
at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, they almost didn't let us in.
Dinner at 3. Yeah. That scene is where Skarsgård starts to turn. Where at first he's like very, like
because he's an unsympathetic character, right? Because he replaces his area.
Yeah. And then. Yeah, at first it's just like, what's the number like that you called and whatnot? He's like, oh, I have to get it. And then he's just like, Steven, give him the number. And then is like
just so good.
Yeah, even that he's not even like fully into it. But when he's like, show me where the conference happened, his like eyes are lowered and he's just like literally looks like he's just seeing through him just all of his bullshit. And it's just by the end of it where he is just completely cold and it's just like, you're fired, you're done, leave, like get the fuck out, like just he's just just the way he switches. And then by the end of it where I think like where he actually goes to fire him and before he was suspended, but because when I think that's when he realizes that his brother called in for him
for Palo Alto,
and then he Yeah, and then because he's at home and he gets that, and then when he comes into the office, he's like scorched earth, like just beelines it right to him. It's just like, I don't understand why you're doing this, Chuck. And can I take this? No, that's property. But it has all my no. Can I have my law books at least? And it's just like, I guess. It's just like, can I have one more thing? It's like, literally, just get the fuck out of here.
There's a lot of moments like that when Chuck is doing the best he can with restraining. I don't know. I think he has nothing to say to Steven, but a lot of pity and disgust that can't be formed into words just yet. But he is saying so much with just his level of contempt that's so visible. In those moments when he's rearranging the magazine shelves.
Well, he's not even rearranging. He's going through it to see how many.
Oh yeah,
he
all
can
right, yeah, that's
them
right.
and be like, these are bullshit.
The
Next one,
montage of him
bullshit.
throwing them on the pile, and then he's putting them back when Steven comes
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
It's and he looks at him like he looks at Steven like almost like, do you have something to say? And then when he sees like Steven's just like, like he just like turns back, like it's just like, like fuck this guy. He's just like turning back to like with the I also love that scene when he's being suspended and kicked out of his office. Christensen's sort of like just like, can I take my Rolodex? And like he's almost has his head tilted back, like he's like, I'm gonna play this move and everything. Like I still have the power and everything. And I'm like, it's like Steve, and then like he immediately just like that just crumples him again. He's like, can I take my law books? And everything. That's like the last thing that he has to hold on to.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
it's like the last thing
yeah. It's very pathetic, but nonetheless, I think it's because of it's just like because of Hayden Christensen's, likability. I think it just keeps you from being from him being an untrustworthy performance.
Yeah. Before we get into Bryden, you have to give your initial thoughts next, but that one scene where he, I think, is thinking about suspending him or whatnot, and like Chloe 70 comes in, it's just like he's really beaten up about it, and then he goes into the room, he's literally like curled up and like crying into a corner and whatnot. I'm just like, dude, Jesus fucking Christ.
He's playing it up so much.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bryden, initial thoughts.
Yeah, I really, really like this movie a lot. I think it went down just a little bit in the rewatch. I think just because I hadn't seen it in a few years, and like there's like maybe I wasn't exactly sure what the downgrade came from. I don't know. Maybe it was I missed Steve Zahn in the last third of the movie. I mean, it was like it would have been nice if he'd been kept in for more of it, because I just love seeing him and Dawson and all that. But no, this is very good, and I think it's like the kind of I think about like other journalism movies, which like I think the milieu of like journalism and newspaper media is like very fascinating to like explore in movies and everything. Like All the President's Men is one of my favorite movies, and that's like a movie that's like very dynamically directed and also has like a moody sense of atmosphere. And this movie is like a little more plain spoken in its direction, but I think like that's what helps and everything. Like there's kind of like a no frills propulsiveness to like the narrative and everything, like how it is. I mean, this movie's like really fleet. It's like only like 90 minutes, I think, and it just like the way that it moves through, and it's only like covering like a month of like. It's funny how like quickly this guy's life collapsed. Like it's like starts in May 1998, and then June he's fired. At least how it's shown in the movie. But like, I think it really does a good job of laying out like the process in a way that like it's a very process focused movie, and I think like that's like really great in getting all the details. And I think Ray does a good job of like setting up the atmosphere of like the New Republic and everything, like the parties where they have like the couches where like they're talking about politics and everything, and there's like the different types of soda in the kitchen and everything, and all like the sort of rumpled fashion everyone's wearing, and the relationship, like he gets like a really good feel for kind of like the relationships that exist in the New Republic office, and how that can sort of breed friendliness and also hostility. I mean, I love the way that like when like Michael Kelly's on his way out and everything, he starts to make the speech about like his farewell speech, and then the Skarsgård comes in the same shot from the background and cuts off the speech. I mean, that's like one just like a really funny bit of bad timing. And then like Skarsgård looks around, and, like just like the silence of everyone is like he is like, fuck, everyone hates me now, damn it. Like it's like it really does get like those office dynamics great. And like the character stuff, even when the movie's not very plot driven, even though I think it is like rarely losing focus of it. And yeah, just like simple stuff, like I mean that close up where it's just having you sit in Skarsgård's reaction shot when he realizes that Glass like fakes the number or whatever for because it's like not the right area code for a Nevada source, and then it's just like the Michael Dana score is like rising up and everything, and then like you see like Skarsgård's like jaw flicking and everything, and then like his eyebrows sort of cocks, and then he's like, Steve, music cuts, he's like, give him the number. And like, yeah, it's and then like Zahn has like the perfect caption. He's like, this guy's toast. I mean, every performance in this is just like so good. Like you get such a great feel for the personality. I mean, Zahn, he has like that sort of like slightly delayed like line delivery where he's like, no, there is one thing that's true in the story. There does appear to be a state of the union named Nevada. And like, it's just like, the way that he like, he's like, oh, this guy's like really snarky and everything, which is like, which is funny because like Zahn like, you know, did like come up playing like kind of like slightly, you know, dim characters and everything. And like, I think it's like funny how that guy like almost, he reveals himself as like having a real like sort of sharp sense of wit that he like sort of slowly deploys as like a way to wound people. And like the sort of like the gleefulness that he's like, he barely contain like, the glee with which he's taking down the Republican pig.
He adds a lot of interiority to a character that you could see being like incredibly one-dimensional.
Yeah,
which is like really an impressive feat.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, it's just like fantastic. And Christensen, yeah, he's great. I mean, like the way that he just seems so studied throughout the whole thing. Like, you know, when like he's like telling Chuck Lane that he's like writing a piece about like the young Republicans and everything. He's taking a bite of the apple and he's looking and he's like waiting. He's like, oh, this guy's not interested. I'm gonna lay out the punchline of this to like get this guy over. And he's just like, that's why everyone goes up and goes to the hotel rooms to commit felonies or whatever. Like the way he makes it seem so offhand and bashful. It's just like that, like the way he plays it up is what makes it like so contemptible and everything. Where he's like, it's a stupid idea. I'm probably gonna just kill it and everything. And everyone just like rolls their eyes like, fuck it, like you obviously know this is good. And yeah, and Skarsgård, I mean, yeah, he's like a really good conduit into this whole thing because he admires Steven and everything. Like, you know, he laughs at his jokes and likes his stories and you know, wants to be like a good boss and everything. And I totally forgotten about this because I hadn't seen it in a few years. I forgot like how long he is willing to give Glass the benefit of the doubt, where he like talks to Kaz Anvar over who plays the editor at Forbes, that says like, you know, I think this guy just screwed up. Can we maybe keep this internal just so we don't fuck up this? And it's funny also the thing of like calling him a kid and everything. It's like, this man is 24 years old. He is not a kid. But yeah,
he is our age.
Yeah, they're like, oh, he hasn't been sleeping lately.
Yeah, sorry. Right. Yeah. No, I just find it funny when like they say like the kid, he's a good kid. And it's like that. Yeah. No, and the way that like, I mean, their chemistry is so good because there is a lack of chemistry where like, you know, Glass will like make a quip, like sort of like let a smile flick to his face, and like Skarsgård will just like give him nothing. He'll just be like, okay, great, we'll just move on. He's like, so there's a directness to them that is very, very cutting, I think. Yeah, and
when did you see this for the first time?
I watched,
like, what prompted?
I watched it in first year of university. I would have been aware of it, I guess, because you know, I wanted to know what other movies Hayden Christensen was in because I'd seen some of those Star Wars movies. I've weirdly never seen Attack of the Clones. I don't know why.
Well,
what's Attack of the Clones?
Ones.
Right. What are clones? But
what's an attack?
What's up? No. But
you're telling me these stars are at war?
But yeah, I mean, Jack, I think like you, this had come onto my radar because I'd heard people like say like, oh yeah, Christensen, this is like an outlier, and like this is one of the good movies, one of his good performances, and also a movie that like puts him to use well. You know, it's not necessarily that like, you know, because a lot of the movies that he's in that like post this, I think, are like, it's like, I mean, yeah, maybe he's not good in them, but also like, you know, are you really expecting like Joe B. Harold, the director of Awake, to give him the best showcase? But
no, that goes to Jessica Alba.
Right, of course.
Right.
But no, I really like this, and like even stuff that like feels like it could be like really trite and everything, like the framing. I mean, I think we'll talk about it when we get into Charlie's initial thoughts, but like the framing device of him, like, you know, speaking to like a classroom full of people and everything, and I like that the movie is very much undermining like the sort of like and it's clever of the movie to take on the inspirational tone where like it is slowly unveiling just how full of shit this guy is and everything, and like where he's like talking about like it's about like getting the story right and everything, it's not about you and like helping other people, but then of course he's like introduced like strutting into the center of the frame and it's like it's all about him, his ego, and then
that's a very clever pivot that the movie makes from where it's like I had the same thought when it's like, okay, like what tone is this setting with the framing device of like, this is how I built my career. But then it takes it to this, again, like it's just all of a facade. And it lends itself to this, like you say, like a no frills sort of like journeyman like directing from Billy Ray. But there is a sense of foreboding to it as the movie goes on. Like, you're heading into a spiral, and I think that lends itself with like very low color. Like a lot of this is like grays and browns and like low lighting, and that works very well.
And that's very much the look of Breach, which is like set entirely in like the interiors of like the FBI bureau and everything, where it's like these bluish like gray walls, just like you're just like, this looks like the worst place to work. That's another movie about like a guy who like is very much Chris Cooper is playing like a traitorous FBI agent who's like dealing like government secrets to like the Russians and everything, and it's like and that was like a real case and everything, but like, and it's a guy who is like clearly bad, like he's like Phil, and I won't get into, I won't make this Breach talk or anything, but it is like Chris Cooper plays him in the movie, and it's very good how like it is like a similar Glass type where it's like this guy is so clearly full of shit, but then also he does appear to be like in like real turmoil over whatever he's doing, but also his motives are like completely inscrutable and everything. Like there is a kind of like a Glass like tone near the end of the movie where it's like even when he's like everyone's got him dead to rights for what he did, he's like still like I did something right and everything, like where he's like I proved something here with what I did and everything. It's like, okay bud, whatever you say, like kind of ending in an echo chamber, sort of like this movie does, where it's Glass is like the only adulation he gets is in his mind. But yeah,
like I don't know, am I giving it too much sympathy? Like I guess there's like when there's that much stubbornness to Glass at the end of this, I guess that's sad to me, that more than anything, that it's like you can't, like there's no convincing him that what he did was wrong.
And but also he's so manipulative and everything, like from the start, where like he's doing the "Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong?" and everything. Like it's like, and it's like, and I mean even Chloe Sevigny, who's like one of his defenders in the movie to the end, she says like, "Stop I don't answer to "Are you mad at me? I'm not your kindergarten teacher." Like it's like.
She's
that's aware of like him like using that as like sort of an appeal to people. It's like an easy sort of ploy. Gosh.
Because
it's so good. I love this movie.
It's really good.
It's the kind of thing where like like I mean, Jack, you said like this in your Letterboxd review, like the best version of this that it could be, and it's like, but like I've seen movies in this milieu that like are still like I guess it's like, I mean, Billy Ray makes this kind of movie look easy to make, and I don't think this kind of thing is always easy to make dynamic. Like I don't know, I'm just to give journalism scandal movies, The Front Runner by Jason Reitman, just to think of an example. That movie, it's like, oh yeah, I think that'd be an easy 6 out of 10. It's not. It's less than that. But yeah.
It and in fact was not the front runner at the box office.
Yeah. But anyways, that's my thoughts.
I've kicked off Jack for making the joke and Bryden for laughing at it, and now Charlie, initial thoughts.
To mirror what everybody said, I really liked this. The first time I watched this was in a high school journalism class in my junior year, and it was like a Friday afternoon, and he was just like, we're just going to watch Shattered Glass. And what is interesting is most of the time in high school where you get into a class on a Friday afternoon and they're like, we're going to watch a movie, it's usually like, okay, nobody wants to do work today. Like, this is the type of thing where we're just going to be filler. And I specifically remember, like, in my first couple weeks learning, like, oh, journalism sounds fun. And it's like, journalism is a profession that a lot of people will look down on you for. Like, it is not a well-liked position by most of the people in the public. If you show up and there's a scandal and there's just people being like, hey, like, what's going on? It's like, people don't want to talk to you. Like, people, like, unless you're contacted by somebody, like, it's the type of thing where it's like, it's meant to be clinical. It's meant to get at the heart of a problem that needs, like, kind of going to what we were talking about with documentaries with the Eyes of Tammy Faye. It's like, this is a story that that needs to be covered, and it's a lot of the times something is like problematic or needs to be reported because it's urgent. Something needs to happen about it. And that's the exact opposite of what Hayden Christensen is trying to do here. He is trying to provide... He's trying to be an entertainer, as we've all said. He's trying to be an entertainer, but not just for... But not specifically to entertain people so people will like him, which I think is interesting, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do as a professional journalist. You are not supposed to make anything about you. It's supposed to be about what the story is. So the fact that he... Will you settle down? The fact that he wants to make these puff pieces, I will admit, going into this, I was like, is this going to be homework? Because I watched this in school, and I don't remember much about it. And also, when I watched it in school, it was 2007. So, like all of you, I had the, Hayden Christensen, terrible actor. Like, I just saw Revenge of the Sith 2 years ago type of thing. And watching this, like you just mentioned, Bryden, I was like, is this going to be a very, like, the supporting cast is great, the writing might be great, is this going to be aesthetically exciting in any way? And I was shocked by how the editing and even the compositions to refer to power dynamics were effective here in a not showy way that nevertheless felt dramatically earned. And the other thing that I kept thinking about, not even while watching it, but even just thinking about it on rewatch, is like, this is a film that is not just about what a fraud he was, but why he was fraudulent. A lot of the puff pieces that he made were very much about masculinity in certain ways. I mean, he writes about people doing frat gigs with, he lies about mini fridges and bars. He lies about these tech companies and all of the stuff to, and the only ways he fits in are to throw parties at his house where there's, everyone's drinking and playing cards and having a good time. And it made it all the more haunting to me about, like, what, and I think this is a good thing that we don't know much about him beforehand, but, like, what makes somebody like this? And then you get into the office politics of it all, and even though he is 24 years old, that's an adult, he is basically trying to be a kid at a party who's like, look what I can do, and everybody fawns over him, and it's particularly the women who he's trying to fawn over. Chloe Sevigny and Melanie Linsky, and even at the beginning, when they call him in, they're like, we proofread your piece, and he's like, oh, it's terrible, I know, it's the worst thing I've read, and they're just like, no, it's just a little rough, that's all.
He says, I'm gonna kill myself, which is already getting that, like, jeez, how
yes.
fucking manipulative this guy is.
He says that right off the bat, but also just the office politics and the gender dynamics of that workplace are so well defined. And then to go to the Peter Sarsgaard thing, I completely forgot that Hank Azaria was in this movie. I completely forgot that Hank Azaria was his boss, and that Hank Azaria gets fired for not just what he's, the boss, his boss is saying about Hayden Christensen, but about, like, yeah, they're making us go and circle all the commas in our piece because they think that we're being, like, and standing up for everyone. And then the fact that Peter Sarsgaard comes into play, and they're like, hey, we're gonna fire Hank Azaria, we think we want you to take his place. And Peter Sarsgaard's already hesitant, like, well, he's a friend and I'm just a journalist, people don't like me as much as him. And it's like, well, we need you to take his place. And he's kind of forced into that position. So when it comes down to the drama of Peter Sarsgaard realizing that Steven is a fraud, not only are the stakes high in terms of, like, it's not a simple story of the boss loves him and then he finds out he's, a liar and then he has to fire him. It has to do with the way the office perceives not just Hayden Christensen's character, but how Peter Sarsgaard is perceived as. People are not happy about this. People don't like him. And or not nearly as much as Hank Azaria is in any way, and how Peter Sarsgaard is forced into an even tougher position to lay down the hammer to, like, basically penalize the most popular male writer in that room, where he is the most manipulative, most quote unquote charming person in that office, and also just scenes of his home life that could be minuscule and could be so superfluous in any other movie, where it's just like he just had a baby and his wife is exhausted, and every time he's like, I'm just trying to take care of my job but also have a life, and then it's just like, I'll take the baby, and then someone calls, and then it's just like, oh shit, it's his wife picks up the call and is like, you have to talk to this person, it's okay, I'll take the baby, like that type of thing, where these feel like fully fleshed out people. And Peter Sarsgaard's clearly had more experience and has been working his way up as an adult, but never really wanted this form of power to begin with, and then has to come down on the glowing pupil that everyone is like, especially from what is initially set up as the framing device, the person that everybody loves and is basically the class clown that still gets straight A's because of how amusing he is. I found to be really interesting just as from a sociological perspective.
Absolutely.
Like there's just so many layers to this that are not just, see what a fucking, how did we let him get away with this? It's like, well, this is how he got away with everything. These are the types of people he worked with. This was the type of business organization that they run. These are the hierarchies of power. And he was, and then, you know, like, yeah, by the time you get to the end, it really, like, you know, in high school I was like, oh, of course, you know, whatever. But here it just really disturbed me. Like, Hayden Christensen got so under my skin in this, in a way that he weaponizes being pathetic and sad, but also is even smarmy in his like, I am so defenseless right now, where it's like, you're on the defense, you're being defensive by weaponizing like suicidal tendencies against this person, and yeah, it's especially well made. And then the framing device I thought was so annoying at first. I completely forgot about that, where it was just like, look where you are now. You were in their classroom, and now you write for the New Republic. And it's just like, all right. Like, I'm assuming this, yeah.
That's what a worse version of this movie would be. That it would, like, earnestly own up to, like, and that, kids, is how I became a journalist. Like,
yeah, that's how my glass was shattered.
Oh, Jesus
that's how I
Christ.
became Mr. Shattered Glass.
And that's my name, Mr. Shattered Glass.
And I thought it was just going to be like, yeah, I thought it was just going to be a dumb flashback to right before, like, it was going to be revealed that was like right before Peter Sarsgaard caught him, and instead the way it reveals itself that way, I found to be like, okay, this made it all worth it. And not to mention, every time it kept flashing back, I'd be like, taking us out of the suspense, the propulsive narrative, like, and now we're back in this fucking classroom. But it would always be like, no, this is how the journalistic process works, and it's done cinematically with showing text, highlighting, showing that this gets proofread by this person, and then it goes to this person, and then it goes back to this. So by the time that Peter Sarsgaard is literally like, we all let him get away with this, and we are all complicit, this is everybody's job, it actually makes it out to be, they've already explained it. It's not Peter Sarsgaard providing, it's not him providing, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? He's not an exposition machine. It's not like he literally has to tell Chloe Sevigny, don't you understand? And then it goes into that stuff of like, we had to let this stuff go on. It's like,
this is why it's important for these reasons.
Yeah, don't you understand? We're dealing with glass that's been shattered.
Yeah, and there is a part of me that when I was rewatching it, I was like, it is kind of Peter Sarsgaard like mansplaining to Chloe Sevigny a little bit, but then at the same time, it's like, but they fed you all this information, and then I had to think back on it and go, yeah, but his whole, what he targeted as a weakness was, he's a very fragile, like heterosexual man that's targeting the women in his workplace because he's trying to woo them, and he's very attractive and kind of,
he's the only one who sees through the bullshit, and he's looking at Sevigny like, quit feeding into this bullshit.
And plus, like, Caitlin is on Steven's side through all of this, and I guess it's like, that's why I read that scene, is like, she does need to, I mean, you know, she has agency,
but she needs to be brought down to earth.
But she, exactly.
Yeah. And it's understandable, because it's easy to be charmed by this good-looking fucking 24-year-old, you know, who's
and also, like, just to comment on the montage of the editorializing staff, like, that is like such a weird combo of like Steven put in so much effort just to put in these fake stories and ranging from small to large fabrications. But then it's like that much effort plus everyone like manipulated by him, where it's like it's all a hot mess, like from each party. It's crazy.
Also, can I also say one thing about the end?
Of course.
The receptionist who you've been like seeing throughout the movie, like, you know, who's like complimenting on like jewelry and lipstick and whatnot. She says like, you know, he never would have gotten away with this if he'd had pictures. And now I'm like thinking like, oh, but now we have like AI art and like, you know, doctored videos and photos. It's like that doesn't quite apply anymore, unfortunately. But yeah,
it is a true story that's eerily prescient. I mean, like, since this movie has come out, people have gone on even social media, several social media platforms, created personas for themselves to make themselves look better than they are. I mean, which is not the equivalent of plagiarism in a fucking, you know, magazine that fucking Air Force One reads. I do love that they keep bringing that up. Air Force One reads this. Like, that's the one thing where they might mention a little too much, or I was just kind of like, yeah, you mentioned that before. But yeah, like, I do think it really got under my skin this time around in a way that I didn't find him to be empathetic at all, but I did find him to be, I did pity him in the way that's like, this is what your idea of success is like. And sadly, many young men still feel that these are the forms of length that they have to go to in any profession to kind of do this stuff. And even the Peter Sarsgaard telling him, the other reason it got under my skin was Peter Sarsgaard consistently having to tell him, go away, you're done. Like that.
Well, and
like
at
when
the
he
end,
weasels-
when he's like, I need to go to the hospital because I don't know what I might do if I'm by myself. He's like, I don't care. Do it. I know you're not going to fucking do anything. Go to the hospital.
I mean, when it's the kid from Final Destination, Chad Danella, who calls him up and like says like, oh yeah, Steven's like wants me to drive him to the airport because he's afraid for himself, because the Sarsgaard, he's just like rolling his eyes like, this fucking guy, like just another ploy to get my attention and make me feel sorry for him. Yeah.
He weaseled his way back up through security after he left. Like that, I was just like, oh god, like I was just like, I want to peel my fucking skin off. Just like, oh Jesus Christ, like. And even even working in customer service, just yesterday we deal with these customers who, it's not the same thing because they're elderly and they keep every policy we have. They try and get away with it. If I work at a movie theater, if they want to get it's $1 for a big cup of water and it's free for a very small cup, and they'll always be like, can we get a tap water? And we'll give it to them. That's $1. Oh, we never have to pay for that. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, that's our policy. And then they'd always like lash back at us. And it's gotten to a point where everybody's been like at my place of work, just being like, just give them what they want, whatever, just do it. And there's, just yesterday, like we have, assisted hearing devices for movies where you have to give us an ID in order to get the assisted listening device. So if one goes missing, we'll be like, oh, this person is the person who does it. They never want to give us an ID. And just yesterday, one of my coworkers was like, yeah, I'm not taking this anymore. You need to give us an ID. Like, we never have to before. Well, we have to now. And they were just so mean to my coworker. And they were just like, and then he was like, okay, we all have to defend John because he actually stood his ground on these people. We have to enforce this rule. And then they came back up to me and I was like, hi, can I have a listening device? Yeah. Can I have your ID? Just very nicely. And it was like, you know what? Nobody experiences joy in this theater anymore. I don't understand why is nobody happy? And I'm just kind of like, it's just our rule, man.
Sometimes heartbreak doesn't feel good in a place like this.
And it did remind me, I know that this is comparing an elderly woman to a young man, but it is like that type of persona of when you get everything you want and feel entitled to something and you don't get it. This is like a type of sickness that we deal with, like, regardless of, like, it's just, it's the type of thing that just drives me insane that he can't take no for an answer. And we know he's wealthy. We know he will be fine. And the fact that he weaponizes, like, I'm not even saying, what's disturbing to me too is I don't know, he's been such a liar that we don't know if he's telling the truth about whether or not he's going to hurt himself. But Peter Sarsgaard has to be like, no, enough. Like, done. Like,
after you've dealt with that, it's like, it's not you're fired. Like, you've done enough. It's just like, anything else that's gonna happen, it's not our responsibility. Like,
yeah, and the scene that with Chloe Sevigny that we all just talked about a couple minutes ago, like that scene where he does blow up at her is so necessary because it's like it's not just about him. He makes it about him. It's about all of us. He doesn't realize that this is affecting all of us as a workplace in terms of our integrity here. That is so upsetting and disturbing that he never fully acknowledges. It's always about him, and it just as a portrait of narcissistic personality disorder, it is so it made my skin crawl, like just watching this in a way that really took me back as a movie that I had to watch in school and then being like, oh, no, this is like a legitimate, very good movie. Like,
I don't think that this is a one-to-one comp or anything. Your reaction to this reminds me of when a billion years ago we recorded an episode on The Social Network, and Clay had a very strong reaction to like our current view of Mark Zuckerberg. It's sort of like what you're experiencing. Like we can't. It's a deeply uncomfortable character and performance. That is a study in manipulation and narcissism. And it's really interesting because it's like with both characters that you just see the characters surrounding them try to break into their psyche, but nothing is working because it's like, I guess there is like a level of unknowability to that, that he has no idea what he's even thinking because he's tried to fabricate his career and now his own personal life and then like his decision making, which is really terrifying.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I never would have thought about that as a comparison, but you're right about like how like it's how both movies have characters where it's like they reject every possible like exit from like whatever disastrous plan they're gonna, or like plans that are gonna like destroy their personal lives and possibly their professional lives and everything. And every time someone tries to make it appeal to them, they just make the wrong decision every time. Yeah, that's
and they go back to it's almost like, I mean, there are no parents in this movie, obviously they're adults, but like as soon as like I made dad mad, I'm gonna call Hank Azaria, my old boss, and he'll be on my side. And there's that whole scene that
he's like curled up, like it's crazy.
Azaria's so good in that scene too, where you can see his eyes sort of moving, where he's like, "This guy's full of shit. Damn it! Like, how did I not see it?" And then he says, "Steve, did you cocaine stories when I was your boss more than once?"
And it cuts.
The silence.
It cuts.
Powerful.
Yeah. I'm assuming that the movie knows we're smart enough to know that he probably lies or does something, but it also is kind of just showing that thing of like just that silence is enough to tell Hank Azaria like, oh fuck, like it's almost more for his perspective as a character and respect that character deserves more so than the foreshadow. Yeah, he's full of shit, if that makes any sense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, the Sarsgaard scene where he blows up at Chloe Sevigny is kind of like the big showcase for Sarsgaard as an actor at the end of the movie, or like kind of like a showy scene, but like it works so well because I mean, it's like that screaming is taking place in his head and that big close up when he's like, Steve, give him the number and everything. But it's just fine when he's just like, that's it. I can't take this anymore. Like, I have this guy dead to rights and no one believes me still. Like, do you not see this? And yeah, it works so well. And also just like, again, like great sense of visual awareness, because sometimes it's like you have scenes where people have like shouting matches in public and like it's like, has no one else reacted to this? I like the way that the characters perform, where it's like, you know, when Sarsgaard starts to like raise his voice to Christensen and then like he stops and like looks around and he realizes like, right, I'm in a public place, I need to like show a little bit of discretion. I mean, just like that, it's little things like that make the movie feel so lived in.
It's kind of the opposite of, you know, and I like this actor almost like 99% of the time, but like it made me think about how, and I don't even mind this movie, but like Mark Ruffalo in Spotlight, I feel like does that too much.
They knew.
I mean, I love Spotlight,
you know,
but
like
yes.
they knew the entire time. Where Sarsgaard, it's like it all gradually builds to that moment, and it's just one moment. Whereas like I feel like Spotlight, that one scene comes too early and is too showy for me.
I should rewatch
Jack and
Spotlight.
Bryden are looking at me like I'm insane, but
yeah, I love that one too. I should rewatch it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just hate it because
Well,
you're from Boston. You were saying they got that wrong.
Look, I'm still mad at people being like, how could you give Mad Max Fury Road Best Picture and not Spotlight? Like,
Bryden, final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I really like this one a lot. It's like it's weird they got like a lot of great line reads. You know, like, I mean, I think of like Zahn like saying that was an N, as in not working when he gets like the wrong the wrong URL. I mean, just like so many like great like subtly funny line reads here. I liked the Michael Dana score too, like how like it is like, you know, becomes more propulsive as the movie goes on, like, you know, sort of like kind of like moody intensity. Really love all the process stuff and all the performances. Really good character piece while also giving like a good sense of place in this like set in like this office environment. You know, I don't know too much about the New Republic. I was reading just a little bit like on the Wikipedia page. It sounds like there's some fucked up stuff that happened there, like in terms of like, you know, Charlie, you're talking about like the sexism that was there. That definitely was like that was like stuff that came to light after this movie, like years later, about like the culture that was there that allowed that to happen. And, you know, it's like the movie doesn't, I don't know if this is this movie's place to deal with it, because, you know, it is like, I think, you know, it would like maybe the scope would get away from it. So I like that the movie like focuses on just like this one contained event. I think that's like a smart way for a movie to go. I think maybe more true story movies could learn from that. But I don't know. It is interesting, like, comparing this with Billy Ray's follow-up, which is Breach, which also, like, is about the FBI, and obviously the FBI is responsible for a lot of corrupt stuff, but, like, that movie's conclusion is, like...
Wait, what?
Yeah. But that movie's conclusion is basically, like, Ryan Phillippe quitting, saying, like, this is really taking a toll on my relationship with my wife. I think I need to quit. It's like, well, I think there's other things that are going on in that organization or problem. So it's, like, you know, wondering about, like, I don't know exactly if Ray quite, you know, maybe there's like stuff that like Ray could be a little more critical about with some of these institutions that he's exploring, but I think he really gets the feel for them well, even if he maybe in the critiques it's maybe it's if it's potentially lacking in that, I think he gets the feel for it really well. And
I'm definitely interested in Breach now.
Yeah,
like you're selling me on it.
Totally solid. Cooper is fantastic in it. Yeah.
When's he bad?
Good point.
Ryan Phillippe in Breach is like, I thought FBI stood for Friends and Buddies Investigate. I gotta take a seat back from this.
And Laura Linney shows up and she's like, I'm afraid I have some bad news.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Court dismissed! Bring in the dancing lobsters!
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash91. Once again, thank you for listening.